Let me ask you something, folks. What if everything you were taught about the discovery of America was wrong? What if Christopher Columbus wasn't the first European to reach the New World? What if, and this is the big one, we have a medieval map that proves it? A map so controversial, some historians call it the most important discovery in human history. Others call it one of the greatest hoaxes ever pulled. Here's the question nobody wants to answer. How could a 15th century map show land that officially didn't exist yet? How could Vikings know about America 500 years before Columbus? And if this map is real, what else has history been hiding from us? Stick with me, because once you see the evidence, you may never look at history the same way again. In 1957, a mysterious medieval map surfaced in Europe. It looked ordinary at first glance. Parchment, Latin text, faded ink. But then, historians noticed something chilling. On the far western edge of the map was a land labeled Vinland. Vinland, the legendary land spoken of in Viking sagas, a place many believed was myth, folklore, campfire stories. But this map didn't treat Vinland like a myth, it treated it like geography. The shape, the coastline, the position relative to Europe. Folks, it looked an awful lot like North America. Let's clear something up right now. Vikings weren't just horn-helmeted raiders screaming across the seas. They were expert navigators, shipbuilders, traders, explorers. These people crossed the North Atlantic without compasses, using the sun, the stars, the wind, and experience passed down for generations. They reached Iceland, then Greenland, and then possibly something even farther west. Does it really sound impossible that they reached North America? Long before the Viking map appeared, ancient Norse sagas spoke of Vinland, a land of forests, fresh water, wild grapes. For centuries, scholars shrugged it off as legend, but in the 1960s, something happened that changed everything. Archaeologists discovered L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada. A real Viking settlement, real tools, real structures. Suddenly, Vinland didn't sound so mythical anymore. So scientists took a closer look at the Viking map. They tested the parchment. It dated back to the 1400s. That alone made jaws drop. But then came the ink analysis, and that's where things got messy. Some tests suggested modern ink compounds. Others said contamination could explain the results. Folks, experts started taking sides, hard. Universities argued, museums debated, careers were on the line. Because if the map was real, history textbooks would need rewriting. Critics say the map is too perfect. They argue someone in the 20th century forged it, using an old parchment to fake authenticity. If true, it would be one of the boldest forgeries ever attempted. But here's the kicker. Why create a fake map of Vinland decades before Viking settlements in North America were proven real? That's the part that makes people scratch their heads. Let's be real here. The Atlantic is no joke, but Viking longships were engineering marvels, fast, flexible, built to survive brutal seas. Modern experiments have proven these ships could make the journey. So the question isn't, could they? The question is, did they? Here's something people don't like to talk about. History isn't just about facts. It's about power. Who gets credit? Who gets remembered? Columbus changed the world narrative. What happens if Vikings did it first? That's not just a footnote. That's a seismic shift. If the Viking map is authentic, then it means medieval Europeans knew about America long before Columbus. It means knowledge existed and was lost. It means history didn't unfold the way we were taught. And folks, that should make all of us pause. Now folks, before we wrap this up, let's slow down and look at what modern evidence really tells us. Because history today isn't just written by stories, it's tested by science. Over the last few decades, archaeologists, oceanographers, and historians have been quietly stacking up data. Satellite mapping of North Atlantic currents shows something fascinating. The same ocean currents that carried Viking ships to Iceland and Greenland naturally push west toward North America. In other words, Vikings didn't fight the ocean helped them. Then there's experimental archaeology. Modern replicas of Viking longships have crossed the Atlantic without engines, without GPS, without modern navigation. They made the journey using nothing but wind, stars, and ancient techniques. That alone destroys the old argument that it was impossible. Now let's talk artifacts. At Lonso Meadows, iron nails, boat rivets, and Norse-style buildings were found. Not guesses, not theories, real physical proof. Carbon dating places Vikings in North America around the year 1000. That's nearly 500 years before Columbus. And here's something most people never hear. Medieval European monasteries were known to copy maps over and over. Knowledge wasn't always lost. Sometimes it was hidden, misunderstood, or ignored. So if information about Vinland existed, it could have survived quietly in map form. Which brings us right back to the Viking map, not as a lone oddity, but as a possible survivor of forgotten knowledge. And folks, that changes everything. So now we're standing at a crossroads. On one side, we have the official story. Neat, simple, comfortable. Columbus sailed west. America was discovered. End of story. But history is rarely that clean. On the other side, we have questions, evidence, and uncomfortable possibilities. Vikings reaching North America isn't radical anymore, it's proven. The real debate is about knowledge. Who knew what and when? If the Viking map is real, then medieval Europeans didn't stumble into the New World blindly. They had hints, stories, possibly maps. That means history wasn't discovered, it was forgotten. And forgotten knowledge has a way of resurfacing when we least expect it. Maybe the Viking map isn't about Vikings at all. Maybe it's about us, about how fragile truth can be, about how easily entire chapters of human history can be misplaced, dismissed, or rewritten. Because history isn't just what happened, it's what survived. And folks, the past still has secrets buried beneath ink, parchment, and time. So the next time someone tells you history is settled, remember the Viking map, remember Vinland, and remember this: the truth doesn't disappear, it waits. If you enjoyed this journey into lost history, make sure you're subscribed, because this channel isn't done asking uncomfortable questions. And trust me, the next story might be even bigger.